Okay, next thing we're going to look at is the increment and the decrement operator. Okay, so just a reminder, if you see plus plus, that's what we call an increment, and if you see a minus minus, that's what we call a decrement. So what I'm referring to is you can attach a plus plus or a minus minus to any type of numeric variable, and your variable value will either increase or decrease by 1. So if I make an integer called x and I give it a value of 100, and then I call x plus plus, if I were to print x on the screen right now, we'd see a value of 101, okay? Because that compound operator does two things, all right? Like I said, it's going to make x get larger by 1, and it's also going to reassign 101 or whatever your new value is back to x. It's also kind of like a plus equals by 1 in a sense, okay? That compound operator that we just referred to. Well, it turns out you could also say plus plus x on the left side of the variable. Same type of thing. If I were to print out x now, I would have 102. Okay, so if I ran my program right now, first time I'd see 101, second time I would see 102. All right, we could then use the decrement operator. Same type of thing. Okay, this would take us down one value. We'd be back to 101. We could also put it on the left side of x. And now if we printed, we'd be back to 100. Okay, it even gets a little stranger, but let's take a look here. First of all, just kind of confirm that this worked. Okay, sure enough, 101, 102, 101, 100, the exact values that we predicted. Okay, you can see the variable getting one larger at first and then one smaller with the decrements. Well, some stranger things happen with that whole idea of putting the plus plus on the left or on the right. So let's try a couple more. Okay, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 10 plus, and I'm going to say plus plus x. Okay, and afterwards I'll print x. Now, let's think about this. We have 10 plus x. The last time we saw x, it was worth 100. So we could get 110, or because of the increment, we might see 111. So is it 10 plus 100, or is it 10 plus 101? Okay, well, what we're going to see is right here, we are going to see 111. Okay, and in this next line, we will see a print of 101. So let's take a peek and see how that happens. Okay, 111, 101. So what's important to note right here, okay, what's important to note is that when we incremented with plus plus on the left of x, the increment happened before we used the variable's value in the statement, which was a print statement involving addition. Then also notice how that change that happened to the x variable, it was a lasting change. So it carried over to the next line of code. All right, well, this time I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to set x back to 100 to start. Okay, I'll put in another blank print line just to kind of separate our values. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these two lines of code. However, I'm going to put the plus plus on the right side of x. Now, previously we got 111 and 101. We're going to get a different value this time. Let's see what the value is, and then let's discuss why it happens. Okay, notice this time we got 110, but still followed with 101. Okay, but why did we get 110 here when we got 111 here? All right, well, it actually matters whether or not you put the increment on the left side or the right side of x. So in my first example, there's a two-step procedure happening here. Okay, the first thing is you increment the variable, in this case x. All right, and then the second thing that happened after I incremented the variable was that I used x in the statement. And when I say use x in the statement, I'm talking about the fact that we're using x in an addition problem with the number 10, and we're printing it. But the increment took place first. Okay? In my next example, it happened in the exact reversed order. So the first thing that happened was we used x in the statement, okay? And the second thing that happened was we incremented x. But by the time that increment happened, we had already used it in our addition problem. Okay, so why did we get 110 here? Well, because the very first thing the compiler did was it added 10 to x, and it got 110, and it printed it. So it took care of this. It used the variable x and its value for whatever it was being told to do, which in this case was an addition problem and a print statement. After that completed, the increment was carried out, and x changed from 100 to 101. That's why when we printed the actual variable x here, we did get 101, which was one more than it previously was. Okay? If we go back to this line of code, in this line of code, x was worth 100, the increment made it 101, and then we used x in the statement. So we used the value 101 in our addition problem and in our print statement. Here we use the value 100 in our addition problem and our print statement, and that's the difference.